Looking for a summer experience your child will never forget? Camp Paw Print and Camp Wildside at Dane County Humane Society offers unforgettable opportunities to learn, explore, and grow while having fun. Perfect for kids age 7 to 12, Camp Paw Print features hands-on animal encounters, crafts, themed lessons, and more. For youth ages 12 to 15, Camp Wildside offers unique themed focus on wildlife exploration, nature adventures, and conservation activities. Make lasting memories with these one-of-a-kind camps. Register today at giveshelter.org/education. One of the holy grails of yearly bike rides is coming up. Loop the Lake is on Saturday, June 20th, starting and ending at the Eastside Club on Monona Drive. Gear up for an at-your-own-pace 13-mile ride around the gorgeous Lake Monona. You'll get food, beverages, a t-shirt, and, of course, local pride. Kids 10 and under ride free with an adult, plus proceeds benefit Clean Lakes Alliance. Register today at cleanlakesalliance.org/loop-the-lake. This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Are you familiar with the Frank Lloyd Wright buildings in Madison? You know that he designed the Monona Terrace, but did you know one of his most influential and noted buildings is sitting on Madison's west side? The First Unitarian Meeting House is now celebrating its 75th birthday this year, and this Friday through Sunday is their Heritage Weekend. So we're bringing back my conversation with the president of Friends of the Meeting House, March Schweitzer. March, welcome to CityCast Madison.
Thank you for having me, Bianca.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into it. Don't excuse the pun. That was intentional. The First Unitarian Meeting House is near the UW Hospital. March, can you help paint the picture for folks? Like, what does this building look like? What are its standout features?
Oh, gosh. The most extraordinary feature is the prow of the meeting house. It's this soaring edifice that goes into the sky, kind of like a soaring bird. And the whole building is in the shape of triangles because Wright thought that the triangle was a shape that reflected man's aspiration. And so the whole building is supposed to represent a kind of aspiration towards the sky, and then downward, the plow part of the prow is plowing its way into the Midwest prairie. And it is also intended to represent kind of a prairie schooner skimming its way across the Midwest prairie. Of course, in those days, all that land leading down to Lake Mendota was actually UW experimental agricultural fields. So you could actually see the lake from there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and they still have some of that, but it's changed a lot.
Around there, it's all built up.
Yeah. Yeah, when I'm looking at it, I mean, it's this huge glass facade with, like the A-frame and lots of natural stone. And it really does kind of look like a bird. And I know Madisonians love birds. So that's definitely one of the things Frank Lloyd Wright was known for, right? Is like trying to make naturalistic spaces. And this building has already been identified. I know that Rob Thomas, our newsletter editor, has pointed it out as one of his absolute favorites. And every time I see it, it seems just extraordinary.
It is. Have you been in it?
I have not, but I know that that's part of why we're talking to you, because there's an opportunity to check it out.
Absolutely.
But hey, let's first talk a bit about Frank Lloyd Wright himself. He's known as one of the best American architects of all time and designed more than 1,000 buildings. And also, in a way, kind of a controversial lad. We don't have that much time to get into all that's ever been written and recorded, so folks can dive deep whenever they want to. But an extraordinary architect, that is undeniable. Can you tell us, March, what was going on in Wright's career when he started designing the Meeting House?
Okay, so he had a number of projects that were going on. For example, the Annunciation Greek Orthodox Church was kind of being designed and built during that period. The Wyoming Valley School, that he did in the Wyoming Valley where Taliesin is, the area in the Driftless that Frank Lloyd Wright's maternal family purchased land in and where he lived a majority of his life. Other sites that are important, and we did tons of what we call Usonian buildings, Usonian houses.
Meaning,
well, Usonian is an acronym. It stands for the United States of North America.
Oh.
It was a term that he didn't coin, but he used because he was looking to change American architecture to a democratic design. And those dwellings of his litter Madison as well as in the Midwest a lot.
Okay. Usonian, like USA. Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah. And the other site that I guess I should mention, which is down in Rockford, is the Laurent House, which is the only house that he built or designed for a disabled paraplegic man. It's very fun to go to.
And in Madison around this time, right, he built a couple of places as well.
Well, yes, some of them were earlier. Yeah, like, for example, Jacob 1, which is also a National Historic Landmark, a World Heritage Site, was the first Usonian house. And that was completed in 1935, approximately. Jacob 2 was done in the early 40s. So our building was designed in 1946, 47, and it wasn't completed until 1951. I guess that's why I wouldn't have said that.
Precursors.
Are there precursors? Exactly.
I mean, we said it. I mean, he did 1,000 buildings. Like, he's truly prolific. But yeah, in this area, now we're talking about the meeting house. I do want to ask, once the meeting house was designed, from what I understand, there were issues around funding the building. So how did Wright and the congregation ultimately bring this wonderful masterpiece to life?
Oh, it was a project that was very controversial to begin with. Frank had many, shall we say, undesirable characteristics, and a lot of those were known by people in Madison, and a lot of people didn't like him back in those days. But it was controversial for the congregation. He happened to be a member of that congregation, of our congregation, and he was chosen because the church was interested in innovative architecture, modern architecture. And he originally thought he could build the building for about $60,000. And later he increased that to $80,000. The members of the congregations that consisted mostly of university professors and graduate students said, "We think we can afford that." And so they went out to national contractors to get bids on it. And they came in at $350,000 to $750,000. And no way was a congregation of 150 members going to be able to afford that. So it was concerning. That's one reason it took so long to build. And Wright very much wanted to build this church. It was his own congregation. He wanted to create a building that reflected his own spiritual beliefs, his belief in nature. I used to say that nature is the only body of God one would ever see. And so he looked around and found a new and aspiring contractor by the name of Marshall Erdman to build the building. He called Marshall out to Taliesin, and Marshall was a cute guy who was 25 years old, probably the same size as Wright in terms of height, 5'6", and was chubbier and cute looking. And Wright called him into his office, and Marshall Erdman said he had on his stovepipe hat and his cape and his cane. And he looked at Marshall and said, "Baby, how would you like to be famous?" And of course...
Oh, no, that's a bad sign. That is a bad sign, but he wasn't wrong.
Right. So this was a guy that really wanted to work with him, and he thought it would jumpstart his nascent contracting career. Of course, he little knew that he was going to almost declare bankruptcy in the process, but that's the way it goes. But so anyway, Marshall Erdman put out a bid of no less than $102,000. He had no way of estimating this project. When all was said and done, the project cost about $215,000 to build. Vendors had to take 70 cents on the dollar. The members of the congregation by themselves hauled 1,000 tons of limestone, dolomite limestone, from the quarry 25 miles away, using Marshall Erdman's dump truck, which was kind of trashed in the process. The suspension was going. Union workmen gave up 2 of their Saturdays free of charge to help along the project. The congregation did a lot of work, and in the end, it wasn't getting completed because there was no money left. People were exhausted. And so Frank Lloyd Wright agreed to have his apprentices come out for about 6 weeks to do the finishing work on the inside of the building, to build the furniture that he had designed, and do plastering and things like that.
Okay, you're laying out a bit of what I said. He's a controversial figure, and it's like towards the end, he's like, I guess I'll get my own apprentices to help after all this time that I'm using everyone else's goodwill. My goodness.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's quite a story, and it was a very difficult time for the church, a lot of angst, a lot of community building, though. I mean, there were so many people that ended up being involved in its construction during that period.
Yeah.
So that's all, and many people outside of our congregation, as you can tell.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's one of those things too, where you want to extend grace and goodwill. That's the whole point of it. And as you said, he had these ties. He was a congregant himself, and his uncle was a Unitarian minister, so he's a member, and his parents were founding members of the church. So like really, truly a family connection. But it sounds like quite the history of getting that together. And in the 60s, the American Institute of Architecture named the Unitarian Meeting House one of Wright's 17 most important contributions to American culture.
That's right.
Which is 17 is pretty good out of 1,000. Again, this man was prolific. So why would you say this building is so influential?
Mostly because I like to say it broke the box. It got architects thinking outside of the box, that they had normally thought about building churches as rectangular boxes with steeples. And so here this really creative building came along that really broke all the norms. And I think it got architects and congregations thinking differently. And so that's where things like A-frames came from, and all sorts of other modern designs that didn't look like that old paradigm.
Literacy is the moment. Madison Reading Project's mission is to connect our community with free books and literacy resources that ignite a love for reading and affirm and reflect the diversity of young readers. And y'all, they truly put on one of the coolest events of the year. Every year, Madison Reading Project hosts a paper fashion fundraiser to behold, and it supports children's book access and free literacy programs called Read E to Wear. And the creativity is unparalleled. Ready to Wear is on June 11th from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Sylvie. This year's theme is out of this world. Get your tickets today at madisonreadingproject.com/readytowear2026 and gather your best mates. You can get the best ticket price when you buy a 4-pack, so you get your friends together and enjoy this one-of-a-kind night. When I look at this church, I have not been, as I revealed at the top of the episode, but it looks spiritual in a very beautiful way. And I want to ask you, because you are a congregant yourself, like, what do you feel when you are in the building?
Well, the outside and the inside are really different. The
Hmm.
outside is this soaring, very majestic building. And inside, it's so intimate and so human scale. And of course, a lot of the outside and the inside are linked because the same materials that are used to build it outside are inside. So it feels very organized. It feels very,
Copacetic.
yeah, it's has a wonderful feeling to it that he managed to achieve an outside that was transformative and an inside which is so comfortable and so spiritually centering. So it's really a wonderful building.
Well, it's clearly noteworthy for all of the reasons you've outlined. Its design, its national recognition, its role as a community space and bringing folks together. Why do you think the average Madisonian should care about it?
Well, I like to say that if there was ever a world famous building hidden in Madison, it's the Unitarian Meeting House. So many people have driven by the building and wondered what it is. They have no idea of its international importance. They have no idea the history of architecture. It is a landmark. And of course, it is a National Historic Landmark.
Yes, it was named that, wasn't it? It's got the official recognition.
Yes, as well as our red chop that Frank Lloyd Wright put on it, which I always say is like the Frank Lloyd Wright seal of approval. He put it on about 50 of his buildings when he started this convention in the late 40s, and we're one of them.
Well, it is really different, right? It's a standout. And one of the things I've learned about Frank Lloyd Wright, and you've identified, he said, 60,000, 80,000, really 340,000. It's similar things, right? He was ambitious. He was doing new things. And I'm curious, are there any issues that come with this Wright building?
Oh, golly. Preservation is a constant and continuing issue. Because of the way that the roof was designed, it was designed to leak. And it has leaked. We've gone through 3 roofs, for example.
Wow.
And have finally, we hope, taken care of the reasons for that to have occurred. Almost immediately after it was built, the floors of the auditorium started sagging. The ceiling started sagging. So we've had to put steel in the building to try to shore it up. And I always say that owning a Frank Lloyd Wright building is like owning a boat, a hole in the water into which you sink thousands or millions of dollars. And it essentially
it's pretty, but
it's pretty. But
she's messy.
So we essentially have had to look to the builders and the construction workers and the plumbers and the electricians and so many workmen in Madison and beyond to help keep the place from rack and ruin. It requires a lot of preservation efforts. And one of the things we want to do this year is to note and to thank all those folks that have worked so hard. We always say it takes a village to have built it and to maintain it.
Yeah, I think about his Falling Waters property in Western Pennsylvania. He's like, what would be great? A house built on a waterfall.
Well, our front is cantilevered too. Ours was supposed to be built with no steel. And there are so many good stories about the church. You have to come on one of our tours and hear all of them. But he really didn't want steel, and some was secreted by Marshall Erdman and Wesley Peters, who was the architect on site. He was the Wright's chief apprentice.
Got it. So he wanted magic to be done. And the people like, well, we want it to hold. So, 3 roofs is a lot. What does the ongoing investment look like and the care that has to go in? That sounds like a lot of money.
Yes, it is a lot of money. And the roof is copper. It was the way that the roof is designed, which is called a Bermuda roof. So it's these individual segments that were soldered together. And of course, copper has this great tendency to expand and contract with the seasons. In a sense, it was designed to leak.
We don't live in California, brother.
Yeah, we're always having to work on one preservation project after another. That's one of the purposes of the Friends of the Meeting House. And the reason that we do these tours, besides to educate the public on this treasure that's here, it is to raise money to fund necessary preservation projects.
And you've had a series of events to commemorate this building. March, what else are you planning this year?
June 5th through the 7th, we're going to be doing a gala weekend of a number of activities, including, for example, a lecture on the unbuilt in Madison, a walking tour of Sunset Hills, which has a number of his apprentice and acolyte houses, a preservation tour of the meeting house. Gee, lots of things.
Yeah, just that?
We're going to be very tired puppies after it's over. And we'll probably be having other events towards the end of the year. Not yet totally planned.
Incredible. And where can folks stay up to date on that?
Well, we have a website. It's www.unitarianmeetinghouse.org. That's where you buy tickets, and that's where you find where all our upcoming events are indicated.
Awesome. As you celebrate and recognize this milestone, what are you hoping for the First Unitarian Church for the next 75 years?
Well, we want to keep it going as long as we can. Actually, the reason we built our addition in 2008 was because we were loving it to death. So the landmark auditorium is used for many purposes, but not most Sunday services. Because, as I said, we were told we were loving it to death, and to keep it going, to keep it as in pristine condition as it is, and to have it continue in this condition, that's all we want for the next 75 years, and to let people know that it's there.
That's a beautiful goal, March. Thank you so much for coming on the show to talk about how we can celebrate this landmark.
Thanks to you, Bianca.
That's March Schweitzer, president of Friends of the First Unitarian Meeting House. That's all for today, here on CityCast Madison. I'm your host, Bianca Martin. Don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Madison neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this episode with someone who loves great architecture? Alrighty, we'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, take good care and thanks for listening.